you've had that conversation, you know, that you've looked in the mirror, or you've just sat down and like, give yourself a good talking to. It's like, this isn't working. I want to do something about it. You're asking the question why, but what you're still dealing with is well entrenched patterns of behavior that you've had since a kid. So we're at awareness.
Yeah.
How do you move? What was your path through it? Because you don't get to being a multimillionaire in property carrying all of those self-sabotaging behaviors with you.
No, absolutely not. So the way that I started to do this, or started to change those patterns of behavior, first of all, I started to learn about NLP. Okay, but beyond NLP, that opened me up to more stuff. I was then in therapy for a while. Then I started to learn about hypnotherapy, and I kind of trained as a hypnotherapist. That opened me up to really understanding what those subconscious patterns of behavior
were you learning about or applying to yourself?
Both. So I learned about stuff. So one of the things that I did was I learned, let's say, for example, with NLP, I learned how to become an NLP practitioner. I've got a belief that if you want to master something, learn how to teach it to other people.
Totally.
So I learned NLP as a practitioner, then master practitioner. Then I went to the level of becoming a trainer so I could teach it. That's what I wanted to do. I learned hypnotherapy, then I started to practice and was a practicing hypnotherapist for a while, okay? Didn't teach hypnotherapy, but when you understand it, you can apply it to yourself. And that's what gave me the awareness, or perhaps the deeper awareness, to start looking at my patterns of behavior, my thoughts, what I do, where does it all come from, what's driving it, why am I doing it, So it gave me almost like, if we go back to the Matrix analogy, it's like looking at the construct, it's looking at the programming that we had. So if you think of NLP, it's about the programs that we run, those thought patterns. So like you can see, like a computer programmer can see code on a screen, I can almost see patterns of behavior, and where they come from, whether it's myself and other people. It's like I see that. So I kind of developed that awareness. And once I started to see more, it was a very uncomfortable experience, because the more aware you become, especially in business and life, we think that we want to go forwards. And when you start to become more and more aware, you start to see more and more of your unresourceful patterns, or your negative patterns and things that you do. It starts to feel like you're going backwards. It starts to feel like, oh, shoot, I'm seeing more and more of my stuff. I feel like I'm going backwards. I'm not going forwards, because I'm seeing all these challenges I've got, all these unhelpful patterns of behavior, all these trauma responses that I've got. So that was the key for me. It was really starting to see not just my thought processes that were deeply ingrained and habitual, but it was starting to see my emotional responses and reactions, things that used to trigger me, and then starting to really understand trauma. That was probably maybe about 10, 11 years ago, where I still, after a really painful relationship breakup, I had a load of trauma that came up to the surface. And it was then at that point that I started to really understand the depth of my trauma, and things like PTSD. I'm like, why am I here? I've got everything I want. I've just gone through a relationship breakup, which has been painful. I've got everything that I want. I've got more money that I can spend. I'm a successful multimillionaire. I've got this huge property portfolio. But right now, none of that means nothing, because the level of pain that I'm in is intolerable. Why is that? What is this? It was very, very confusing for me at the time. But starting to understand the depths of the trauma that we have as human beings was what was able to help me to keep moving forward. So one of the things that I have learned through my own experiences, and one of the things I teach in my academy when I coach people, is that whenever you go through like what I call the phases of implementation, whenever you're trying to level up your life, we're going to hit these glass ceilings. Okay. And the thing that's what creates the glass ceiling is going to be our belief system, and it's going to be the trauma, it's going to be the things that we've had in our past. That's going to keep us within our comfort zone. So we have to, if ever we want to kind of progress in life, we have to break through those glass ceilings, which means we need to change our belief system, but also we need to heal the trauma that is normally attached to some of those beliefs in the first place.